All glories to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Chaitanya Charitamrta Madhya Lila, Chapter 13, Text 134. Swarupa Goshani Jane Nakahe Artatara Shri Rupa Goshani Kaila Seyarta Prachara. The meaning of those verses was known to Swarup Damodar Goswami, but he did not reveal it. However, Sri Rupa Goswami has broadcast the meaning. (135) Swarupa Sange Yara Artha Kare Asvadana Nritya Madhye Se Shloka Karena Patana. While dancing, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to recite the following verse, which he tasted in the association of Swarup Damodar Goswami. 136. Ahushchate Nalina Naba Hadara Vindam Yogesvarar Tradi Vichincham Agadha Bodhai Samsara Kuku Patito Taran Avalambam Deham Jusam Api Manasi Udiyat Sadanaha. The gopis spoke thus: the dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into the deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that these lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are only ordinary persons engaged in household affairs. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.82.48. The gopis were never interested in karma yoga, jnana yoga, or dhyan yoga. They were simply interested in bhakti yoga. Unless they were forced, they never liked to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. Rather, they preferred to take the lotus feet of the Lord and place them on their breasts. Sometimes they regretted that their breasts were so hard, fearing that Krishna might not be very pleased to keep his soft lotus feet there. When those lotus feet were pricked by the grains of sand in the Vrindavan pasturing ground, the gopis were pained and began to cry. The gopis wanted to keep Krishna at home always, and in this way their minds were absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Such pure Krishna consciousness can arise only in Vrindavan. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to explain his own mind, which was saturated in the ecstasy of the gopis. 137. Anyera hridaya mana mura mana vrindavan mane vane eka kari jani dahan tumara pada dvaya karaha yadi udaya tabe tumara purna kripa mani. Speaking in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, for most people, the mind and the heart are one, but because my mind is never separated from Vrindavan, I consider my mind and Vrindavan to be one. My mind is already Vrindavan, and since you like Vrindavan, you will please place your lotus feet there. I would deem that your full mercy. Purport. The mind's activities are thinking, feeling, and willing, by which the mind accepts materially favorable things and rejects the unfavorable. This is the consciousness of people in general. But when one's mind does not accept and reject, but simply becomes fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna, then one's mind becomes as good as Vrindavan. Wherever Krishna is, therefore also are Srimati Radharani, the gopis, the cowherd boys, and all the other inhabitants of Vrindavan. Thus, as soon as one fixes Krishna in his mind becomes identical with Vrindavan. In other words, when one's mind is completely free from all material desires and is engaged only in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one always lives in Vrindavan and nowhere else. 138. Prananata suna mura sacha nivedana raja amara sadana tahanto mara santama na paile na rahe jivana. My dear Lord, kindly hear my true submission. My home is Vrindavan, and I wish your association there. But if I do not get it, then it will be very difficult for me to keep my life. Purport. Only when the mind is free from designations can one desire the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The mind must have some occupation. If a person is to be free of material things, his mind cannot be vacant. There must be subject matters for thinking, feeling, and willing. Unless one's mind is filled with thoughts of Krishna, feelings for Krishna, and a desire to serve Krishna, the mind will be filled with material activities. Those who have given up all material activities and have ceased thinking of them should always retain the ambition to think of Krishna. Without Krishna, one cannot live, just as a person cannot live without some enjoyment for his mind. 139. Purve udhavad vare eva sachat amare yoga jnane kahila upaya tumi vidhagda kripamaya janaha amara hridaya more eche kahite na yuyaya. My dear Krishna, formerly, when you were staying in Mathura, you sent Uddhava to teach me speculative knowledge and mystic yoga. Now you yourself are speaking the same thing, but my mind doesn't accept it. There is no place in my mind for Jnana Yoga or Dhyan Yoga. Although you know me very well, you are still instructing me in Jnana Yoga and Dhyan Yoga. It is not right for you to do so. The purport. The process of mystic yoga, the speculative method for searching out the supreme absolute truth, does not appeal to one who is always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. A devotee is not at all interested in speculative activities. Instead of cultivating speculative knowledge or practicing mystic yoga, a devotee should worship the deity in the temple and continuously engage in the Lord's service. Temple deity worship is realized by the devotees to be the same as direct service to the Lord. The deity is known as the Archa Vigraha or Archa Avatar, an incarnation of the Supreme Lord in the form of a material manifestation, brass, stone, or wood. Ultimately, there is no difference between Krishna manifest in matter or Krishna manifest in spirit because both are his energies. For Krishna, there is no distinction between matter and spirit. His manifestation in material form, therefore, is as good as his original form. Satchidananda Vigraha. A devotee constantly engaged in deity worship, according to the rules and regulations laid down in the Shastras and given by the spiritual master, realizes gradually that he is in direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus he loses all interest in so-called meditation, yoga practice, and mental speculation. 140. Chita khari thoma hoite vishaye chahi lagaite yatna khari nari khari bhare thare dhyana siksha karaha loka hashana mara stana nakara vichare. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, I would like to withdraw my consciousness from you and engage it in material activities. But even though I try, I cannot do it. I cannot do so. I am naturally inclined to you only. Your instructions for me to meditate on you are therefore simply ludicrous. In this way you are killing me. It is not very good for you to think of me as a candidate for your instructions. Purport. Srila Rupa Goswami says in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11, Anya Bilasita Sunyam Gyanam Karmadi Anavritam Anaku Yena Krishnanu Silanam Bhaktir Uttama. For a pure devotee, there is no scope for indulgence in mystic yoga practice or the cultivation of speculative philosophy. It is indeed impossible for a pure devotee to engage his mind in such unwanted activities. Even if a pure devotee wanted to, his mind would not allow him to do so. That is a characteristic of a pure devotee. He is transcendental to all fruitive activity, speculative philosophy, and mystic yoga meditation. The gopis therefore expressed themselves as follows. 141. He gopi yogeshvara padakamala tumara janakari paibe santosha tomara vaksha paripati taramadhe kuchinati suni gopira aro vadhe rosa. The gopis are not like the mystic yogis. They will never be satisfied simply by meditating on your lotus feet and imitating the so-called yogis. Teaching the gopis about meditation is another kind of duplicity. When they are instructed to undergo mystic yoga practice, they are not at all satisfied. On the contrary, they become more and more angry with you. Purport. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has stated, Chaitanya Charitamrta Madhya 5. Kaivalyam narakayate tridasa pur akasha puspayate dordantendriya kala sarva patali protkata damistrayate Vishram Purna Sukhayate Vidhi Mahindradis Cha Kitayate Yat Karunya Kitakasa Bhai Bhava Vatam Tam Guram Eva Stuma. For a pure devotee who has realized Krishna consciousness through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the monistic philosophy by which one becomes one with the Supreme appears hellish. The mystic yoga practice, by which the mind is controlled and the senses are subjugated, also appears ludicrous to a pure devotee. The devotee's mind and senses are already engaged in transcendental service of the Lord. In this way, the poisonous effects of sensory activities are removed. If one's mind is always engaged in the service of the Lord, there is no possibility that one will think, feel, or act materially. Similarly, the fruitive worker's attempt to attain the heavenly planets is nothing more than a phantasmagoria for the devotee. After all, the heavenly planets are material, and in due course of time, they will also be dissolved. Devotees do not care for such temporary things. They engage in transcendental devotional activities because they desire elevation to the spiritual world, where they can live eternally and peacefully with full knowledge of Krishna. In Vrindavan, the gopis, cowherd boys, and even the calves, cows, trees, and water are fully conscious of Krishna. They are never satisfied with anything but Krishna. (142) Dehasmrti nahi yara samsara kupakahantara taha hoite na chahe udhara viraha samudra jale kamatiming gile gile gopi gane neha tara para. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the gopis have fallen into the great ocean of separation and are being devoured by the Timingala fish of their ambition to serve you. The gopis are to be delivered from the mouths of these Timingala fish for they are pure devotees. Since they have no material conception of life, why should they aspire for liberation? The gopis do not want that liberation desired by yogis and jnanis. They are already liberated from the ocean of material existence. Purport. The bodily conception is created by the desire for material enjoyment. This is called Vipada Smriti, which is the opposite of real life. The living entity is eternally the servant of Krishna, but when he desires to enjoy the material world, he cannot progress in spiritual life. One can never be happy by advancing materially. This is also stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30. Adanta Gobhir Visatam Tamisram Puna Punas Charvita Charvananam. Through the uncontrolled senses, one may advance one's hellish condition. He may continue to chew the chewed, that is, repeatedly accept birth and death. The conditioned souls use the duration of life between birth and death only to engage in the same hackneyed activities: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. In the lower animal species, we find the same activities. Since these activities are repeated, engaging in them is like chewing that which has already been chewed. If one can give up his ambition to engage in the hackneyed material life and take to Krishna consciousness instead, he will be liberated from the stringent laws of material existence. One does not need to make a separate attempt to become liberated. If one simply engages in the service of the Lord, he will be liberated automatically. As Srila Bilva Mangala Thakur therefore says, Muti Svayam Mukuli Tanjali Sevate Sman. Liberation stands before me with folded hands, begging to serve me. (143) Vrindavana Govardhana Yamuna Pulinavana Sei Kunje Rasadika Lila Sei Vrajera Vrajajana Mata Pita Bandhugana Bhakti Mane Pasharila. It is amazing that you have forgotten the land of Vrindavan. And how is it that you have forgotten your father, mother, and friends? How have you forgotten Govardhan Hill, the bank of the Yamuna, and the forest where you enjoyed the Rasa Lila dance? (144) Vidhagda Murdu Sadguna Sushila Snigdha Karuna Tumi Tomara Nahi Dosa Basa Tabeye Tomara Mana Nahi Smare Vrajana Se Amara Durdeva Vilasa. Krishna, you are certainly a refined gentleman with all good qualities. You are well behaved, soft-hearted, and merciful. I know that there is not even a tinge of fault to be found in you. Yet your mind does not even remember the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This is only my misfortune and nothing else. (145) Nagani apanaduka dekhi braresvari muka Raja Janera Hridaya Vidare. Kiba Mara Vrajavasi Kiba Jiya Vrajayasi Kena Jiyao Duka Sahibare. I do not care for my personal unhappiness, but when I see the morose face of Mother Yashoda and the hearts of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan breaking because of you, I wonder whether you want to kill them all, or do you want to enliven them by coming there? Why are you simply keeping them alive in a state of suffering? Tomara ye anya vesha anya sanganya desha Raja jane kabu nahi bhaya Rajabhumi chadite nare tomana dekhila mare Raja janera kihabe upaya. The inhabitants of Vrindavan do not want you dressed like a prince, nor do they want you to associate with great warriors in a different country. They cannot leave the land of Vrindavan, and without your presence they are all dying. What is their condition to be? 147. Tumi vrajera jivana vrajarajera pranadana Tumi vrajera sakala sampad Sripad rudra tomara mana Asichiya vrajajana Raje udaya karonija pada. My dear Krishna, you are the life and soul of Vrindavan Dham. You are especially the life of Nanda Maharaj. You are the only opulence in the land of Vrindavan, and you are very merciful. Please come and let all the residents of Vrindavan live. Kindly keep your lotus feet again in Vrindavan. Purport. Srimati Radharani did not express her personal unhappiness at being separated from Krishna. She wanted to evoke Krishna's feelings for the condition of all the others in Vrindavan Dham. Mother Yashoda, Maharaj Nanda, the cowherd boys, the gopis, the birds and bees on the banks of the Yamuna, the water of the Yamuna, the trees, the forests, and all other paraphernalia associated with Krishna before he left Vrindavan or Mathura. These feelings of Srimati Radharani were manifested by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore he invited Lord Jagannath, Krishna, to return to Vrindavan. This is the purport of the Ratha Yatra cars going from Jagannath Puri to the Gundicha temple. (148) Suniya Radhika Vani Vraja Premane Ani Bhave Vyakulita Deha Mana Raja Lokera Prema Suniya Panake Ranimani Kare Krishna Tandre Asvasana. After hearing Srimati Radharani's statements, Lord Krishna's love for the inhabitants of Vrindavan was evoked, and his body and mind became very much perturbed. After hearing of their love for him, he immediately thought himself to be always indebted to the residents of Vrindavan. Then Krishna began to pacify Srimati Radharani as follows. 149. Pranapriya Sunamura Esatya Vachana Tumasabara Smarane Juhuron Muniratri Dine Pranapriya Sunamura Esatya Vachana Tumasabara Smarane Juhuran Muniratri Dine Muradukha Na Jane Kona Jana. My dear Srimati Radharani, please hear me. I'm speaking the truth. I cry day and night simply upon remembering all you inhabitants of Vrindavan. No one knows how unhappy this makes me. It is said, purport, it is said Vrindavanam Parityagya Padamekam na gachati. In one sense, Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, Isvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Satchidananda Vigraha, does not even take one step away from Vrindavan. However, in order to take care of various duties, Krishna had to leave Vrindavan. He had to go to Mathura to kill Kamsa, and then he was taken by his father to Dwarka, where he was busy with state affairs and disturbances created by demons. Krishna was away from Vrindavan, and he was not at all happy. As he plainly disclosed to Srimati Radharani, she is the dearmost life and soul of Sri Krishna, and he expressed his mind to her as follows. Rajavasi Atajana Mata Pita Sakagana Sabe Haya Mora Tvana Sama Tanra Maje Gopi Gana Sakshat Mora Jivana Tumi Mora Jivanera Jivana. Sri Krishna continued, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan Dham, my mother, father, cowherd boyfriends, and everything else, are like my life and soul. And among the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis are my very life and soul. And among the gopis, you, Srimati Radharani, are the chief. Therefore, you are the very life of my life. Purport. Srimati Radharani is the center of all Vrindavan's activities. In Vrindavan, Krishna is the instrument of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan still chant Jai Radhe. From Krishna's own statement given herein, it appears that Radharani is the queen of Vrindavan and that Krishna is simply her decoration. Krishna is known as Madana Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid, but Srimati Radharani is the enchanter of Krishna. Consequently, Srimati Radharani is called Madana Mohan Mohini, the enchanter of Cupid. (151) Tomasa bara prema rase amake karila vase ami tomara adhina kevala Tomasaba chandana amadura deshalana rakhiyache durdaiva prabhala. My dear Srimati Radharani, I am always subservient to the loving affairs of all of you. I am under your control only. My separation from you and residence in distant places have occurred due to my strong misfortune. (152) Priya Priya Sangahina Priya Priya Sangavina Nahi Jiya E Satya Pramana Muradase Suneyabe Tanra Etase Habe Eibayadunhe Rakhe Prana. When a woman is separated from the man she loves, or a man is separated from his beloved woman, neither of them can live. It is a fact that they only live for each other. For if one dies and the other hears of it, he or she will die also. 153. Sehi sati premavati premavan seipati viyogi vanshe priya hite yagane apana dukha vanshe priya jnana sukha sei dui mile achirate. Such a loving, chaste wife and a loving husband desire all welfare for each other in separation, and do not care for personal happiness. Desiring only each other's well-being, such a pair certainly meet again without delay. (154) Rakite to mara jivana sevi ame narayana tanra sakche asi niti niti tomasane kridakari nitiyai yadupuri taha tumi manaha mora sporti. You are my most dear, and I know that in my absence you cannot live for a moment. Just to keep you living, I worship Lord Narayana. By his merciful potency, I come to Vrindavan every day to enjoy pastimes with you. I then return to Dwarkadam. Thus, you can always feel my presence there in Vrindavan. (155) Morabhagya movishaye tomaraye premhaya sei prema para matra bala lukana ama ane sanga karaya tomasane prakate ani vesatvara. Our love affair is more powerful because of my good fortune in receiving Narayana's grace. This allows me to come there unseen by others. I hope that very soon I will be visible to everyone. Purport. Krishna has two kinds of presence, prakata and aprakrita, manifest and unmanifest. These are identical for the sincere devotee. Even if Krishna is not physically present, the devotee's constant absorption in the affairs of Krishna makes him always present. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.38. Pramanjana chodita bhakti vilochanena shanta sadaiva hridayeshu valokayanti yam sham sundaram achintya gunasvarupam govindam maripurusham tamaham bhajami. Due to his intense love, the pure devotee always sees Lord Krishna present within his heart. All glories to Govinda, the primeval personality of Godhead. When Krishna is not manifest before the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they are always absorbed in thoughts of him. Therefore, even though at the time Krishna was living in Dwarka, he was simultaneously present before all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This was his aprakrita presence. Devotees who are always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna will soon see Krishna face to face without a doubt. In other words, devotees who are always engaging in Krishna consciousness and are fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna certainly return home, back to Godhead. They then see Krishna directly face to face, talk with him, and enjoy his company. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Chaktva teham punar janma naiti mamiti sorujuna. Because during his lifetime a pure devotee is always speaking of Krishna and engaging in his service, as soon as he gives up his body, he immediately returns to Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna is personally present. He then meets Krishna directly. This is successful human life. This is the meaning of Prakateha Anibe Satvara. The pure devotee will soon see the personal manifestation of Lord Sri Krishna. 156. Yathavera vipaksha yata dusta kamsa paksha taha ami kalusa bachaya achedui chari jana taha mari vrindavan Ailama ami jani ha nishchaya. I have already killed all the mischievous demons who are enemies of the Yadu dynasty. but I have also killed Kamsa and his allies. But there are 2 or 4 demons still living. I want to kill them, and after doing so, I shall very soon return to Vrindavan. Please know this for certain. Purport. Just as Krishna does not take a step away from Vrindavan, Krishna's devotee also does not like to leave Vrindavan. However, when he has to tend to Krishna's business, he leaves Vrindavan. After finishing his mission, a pure devotee returns back home to Vrindavan, back to Godhead. Krishna assured Radharani that after killing the demons outside Vrindavan, he would return. I'm coming back very soon, he promised, as soon as I have killed the few remaining demons. 157. Sehi satru gana haite vraja jana rakite rahi rajaye udashina hana he destri putra dhane kari raja avarane yadu ganera santosha lagiya. I wish to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the attacks of my enemies. That is why I remain in my kingdom. Otherwise, I am indifferent to my royal position. Whatever wives, sons, and wealth I maintain in the kingdom are only for the satisfaction of the Yadus. (158) Tomhara ye prema guna kareyama akarshana anibe amadina dasa vishe Puna asi vrindavane vrajavadu tomasane vilasi barajani divase. Your loving qualities always attract me to Vrindavan. Indeed, they will bring me back within 10 or 20 days. And when I return, I shall enjoy both day and night with you and all the damsels of Rajabhumi. 159. Etatanre kahi Krishna vrajayate satrishna ekashloka pari sunaila sehi shloka sumiradha kandila shakala badha Krishna praptiye pratiti haila. While speaking to Srimati Radharani, Krishna became very anxious to return to Vrindavan. He made her listen to a verse which banished all her difficulties and which assured her that she would again attain Krishna. (160) Mai bhaktir hi bhutanam amrutat vaya kalpate dishya yad asin mat sneho bhavatina mat apanaha. Lord Shri Krishna said, devotional service unto me is the only way to attain me. My dear gopis, whatever love and affection you have attained for me, by good fortune, is the only reason for my returning to you. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.82.44. That ends our reading for today. All glories to Sripad, Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Shanta Maharaj. Dandavat Muni Maharaj.